Soul on Soul with Phinesse. Of course, I'm your host, Phinesse. And you know how we do every Sunday, 10 p.m. My Soul Radio. Make sure you follow My Soul Radio on social media platforms, as well as you follow Soul on Soul with Phinesse. Today, my very special guest is somebody I'm a big fan of and been following for years because I've been in the music business as a DJ, as a writer, and now doing this radio and podcast once again. We're continuing to grow, and because of what they do, we're continuing to grow. I'm talking to the editor-in-chief, the man in charge, Mr. Chris Rizik of Soul Tracks. Now, if you don't know what Soul Tracks is, this is why we're doing the interview, because some of you don't know. I get a lot of phone calls and emails asking me what publication should they be following other than Billboard. And so I've got the man on right now to talk about what it is he does and to talk about Soul Tracks. Chris, welcome to Soul on Soul with Phinesse. How are you today?
Hey, great, Phinesse. Great to be here. Thanks.
All right. So getting right into this, how did Soul Tracks come about? Why did you feel the need to start this publication?
I mean, like a lot of people, I started it as a fan. So I was a music fan, had always been growing up, near Detroit. You can't help but be a soul music fan. Mm-hmm. And back around 2003, I just wrote a couple articles on the web, put them on some other websites just for fun. And out of the blue, I got a call from Sirius XM Radio, their soul music station. They contacted me and asked me if I wanted to do a show. They liked my writing. So I did a couple shows on Sirius XM. As you could tell, I don't really have a radio voice like you do. What I really like to do is write. And so I decided, what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to do that show. I just wanted to write about music. And so I taught myself how to build a website and just started writing biographies and things like that. And so that was Memorial Day weekend, 2003, in my kitchen on my wife's computer. That's how Soul Tracks got started. And then one thing led to another. I kind of had a sense of how I wanted, if I grew it, what I wanted the site to look like. And so I would write on weekends, I would write on nights. And then next thing I knew, people started reading it. So then we started bringing in some professional writers. And one thing led to another. And over time, we went from this site that just did sort of biographies of classic soul artists to a site that would break new artists, break new songs. Understanding there, people like you and what you're doing are rare. Most broadcast radio and internet radio doesn't cover soul music. And so our idea was to create a place for people to discover new music that they wouldn't hear on broadcast radio. And so that's how we started. And, one thing led to another. We do album reviews. We do some interviews. The biggest thing we do is we break new music. So tomorrow we're premiering a brand new song by Deborah Bond, great artist from DC. And she contacted us and we're going to premiere it so that our readers will discover, because, there aren't many places for them to discover great soul music, particularly soul music from independent artists.
All right. We're talking to Chris Rizik from Soul Tracks, one of my favorite publications. We only go by two publications around here, and Chris has been one of them that we've been following for years, and we've discovered amazing artists because of Soul Tracks. Now, Chris, I got to ask you, Chris, you're a white boy. What you know about putting together what do you know about putting together Soul Track? And I'm happy for you because it's amazing what soul does. So, Chris, explain that to everyone, because I know they bug out when they feel like, wait a minute, there's a white boy doing this.
Yeah. The first time people knew Chris from Soul Tracks before people had ever seen Chris from Soul Tracks. So I get it, man. First time I was asked to speak at a conference. I got up there to speak and I saw like 300 jaws drop because nobody had seen me before. So yeah, I mean, I'm a Middle Eastern kid, grew up near Detroit. You couldn't help but grow up in that area. If you grew up there, you couldn't help but be a soul music fan. I was a soul music fan and I was a writer, and it was kind of that combination. And I guess I could say that experience, we all sort of grow up in our own areas. I grew up in an area that was 100% Middle Eastern. And so exposing me to another culture just opened the world to me. And so it's been a great experience. And yeah, I mean, I get it. It surprises some people sometimes, but in the end, it's about music, and I love music. And so yeah, I've been blessed.
So let me ask you this question. I always ask artists this. I'm going to ask you, as someone that has an appreciation for soul music and know what soul music is, but what is Chris Rizik's definition of soul music?
That is a great question. I've actually written a few articles about this because, we get so many submissions from artists, and, we get 40 to 50 a day that come into us. And I mean, it could be, an acoustic folk rock singer wearing flannel, and they're going to put soul in it because they think, it's likely to get covered. So it's a tough thing, right? So, for me, again, being from Detroit, you've got this long history of what was rhythm and blues which kind of melded into soul music in the 60s. There's gospel coming from one direction. There's some jazz coming from the other direction. And it's a tough line to draw. So we don't draw it very narrowly. What we try to do is look at our audience and what kind of music will our audience like. So we've got some jazz in there. We've got some gospel in there. We really don't do hip hop because over the years, we know our audience is age 35 to 60. Most of them grew up on sort of more traditional soul music. And so, we test out things on them. What do they like? What don't they like? What kind of response do we get? And so I'm not answering your question very specifically, but I'm sort of saying how we define soul is what our audience wants to hear. And so we kind of know over the years, we know what will connect with them and what won't. Right. But it's a tough line to draw.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Who are some of your favorite soul artists?
Okay. So I don't want to make any enemies here with this. So, people, a lot of times people who don't have exposure to soul say, give me 3 current artists, different enough, so that they're not, that I can understand sort of some of the breadth of what you guys cover. And 3 that I tend to give: Gregory Porter is more on the jazz side of things. There's a group from UK called Mama's Gun, more on the pop side of soul.
Yeah.
And then the third one, I'd probably put 2 more. Eric Roberson represents sort of the indie side of soul, and then Quabs, who kind of has sort of a 90s influence. And it's like if somebody listens to those 4, they're going to get an okay sense of the breadth of soul music. And I could name like 50 others that I love. But those are kind of the ones I give people who know nothing about the music and just kind of want to try a sampler.
Okay. Chris, one of the things I love about your magazine is the fact that you'll have specialty month where you'll cover certain things. But one thing you haven't done yet, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. I always say this to folks: there's some great blue-eyed soul out there. And I want to know, when is Soul Tracks going to cover some old school or new school blue-eyed soul? Not just talking about John B. or Remy Shans and what happened to Remy Shans. Things like that.
We do cover a lot. So we did a couple stories on Bobby Caldwell in the past month. Mm-hmm. We cover Michael McDonald an awful lot. And then, we cover a fair number of younger blue-eyed soul artists. We just did a story last night on it. So yeah, we do. The challenge is they have to have a sound that we think will connect to our listeners, and there has to be enough of a soul influence. But again, it's tough to draw that line. But no, we do cover a fair amount.
Okay.
a shade. Not the perfect arrangement, but it's how we are made. Sometimes we agree to disagree. Sometimes we don't. When the windows are open wide, we go deep. Straight to the heart of what matters. That's where we meet. Possibilities endless. Nothing to hide. So deep. So deep. So deep. So deep. She pictures the future. I live in the now. Still we get there together. And I know just how. Sometimes there is discord. Sometimes we carry the tune. When the windows are open wide, go deep. Back to the place where we find the souls we see. Possibilities endless.
We're talking to Chris Rizik, Soul Tracks owner, editor, the man is extraordinaire. Hey, Chris, when are you going to do a music conference, man?
We did two back. We did our annual Soul Tracks Reader's Choice Awards, which this year is going to be Monday, December 6th. We did that live twice. So we had several hundred people come into Detroit. We did a live show. We had Rasan Patterson, Phil Perry, Eric Roberson, Maya Azucena, Kanya Doss. Lots of people came and performed. It was good. It's just, I found out what I'm good at. I found out putting on shows is a lot of work. So we did a couple live shows, and then we went back to doing it virtually because that's what I'm better at. So yeah, what we've partnered. When we did our 10th anniversary, we partnered with a group out in New York and did a show there. But so I'm happy partnering with people. I'm just not a good person to put on a show. I'd rather just write about it.
Oh, now, Chris, you saying the words that I love to hear, your partner, because My Soul Radio and myself, we have done music conferences before, but we really want to get up with one that does independent, that really cares about the independent artists. So fans, I'm going to ask Chris on the spot, so we got this recorded. If we do a music conference, can we get Soul Tracks to come be a part of it?
So you put me on the spot. You set me up with that one. If you put a music conference on, I would get in a plane and come out there.
Okay. You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. I got him now. Corey, you heard that as well. Okay, we got you. We'll talk about that later on. We got so many things going on. Now let's talk about the independent artists, Chris. When it comes to submission for Soul Tracks, what do they need to do properly?
Okay, so what I'd suggest is somebody go to soultracks.com, and there's a little search area, and type in 5 basic tips. Because last year I wrote an article on this very question, because we get so much stuff. So if they type 5 basic tips, they'll go to, it's a very short to the point article, but I'll give you some of the thoughts. First of all, you have to understand, I mentioned we get 40 to 50 submissions a day. Mm-hmm. So if a submission is incomplete, and I don't screen them all, I've got a screener who screens a lot of them, a music editor, but we've got so much coming in. If something comes in and it's incomplete or whatever, we may just go on to the next one. So if you're going to submit, first of all, info@soultracks.com is the email address, or there is a contact us button that you can use on the site. What we want you to send is your biography, your photo, either an MP3 or a YouTube link or some way where we can listen to the song. If you have social media links, you send that. You send this nice package that explains who you are and what the song is. And that way it's easy for us to listen and say, we like this, let's write a story, or, apologies, this isn't a fit. But it's going to be tough. If we got to go back and forth because, okay, well, I sent a song, but nothing about me, or then it's probably not going to happen because there's just too much email. I get about 300 emails a day, and there's just too much email for us to do that. So I would say that's one point. The other point is, and some artists don't recognize this, when you're submitting and we're going to write about you, we're forming a relationship, and it's a two-way relationship. So, if we decide to write you, I'm going to pay a writer to write a story about you. And we get 40 submissions a day, we write about 2. So if you are one of the 2 that gets written about, it's a pretty big deal. You've made it through, it's like being on The Voice, right? You made it to this point where you're covered. If we write about you and we put you in our email and we put, it's a two-way street. Our expectation is that you're going to tell your friends, you're going to tell your fans, hey, Soul Tracks wrote about us, because, we're a startup business, just like you are you're a startup business with your career. So it helps for you to tell people about us, just like we're telling people about you. It's pretty disappointing when we write about an artist and then they never do anything. They never tell their readers about the article, never tell their fans about the article. So those are a couple of things. But if they go to that article, they'll get a nice how-to on how to do that.
All right. You said something earlier I want to double back on. I know you guys don't do hip hop at all. And let me go back first, ladies and gentlemen. Let me say this. As somebody that used to manage artists, I have submitted a few artists. And don't get upset if you don't get chosen. Try again. Because when you do get an artist on, as Chris is saying, it's well worth it. It helped my artist career at the time that I was managing. And what he's saying is true. And you need to get press. And if you're doing soul music, there's no other platform better than Soul Tracks. I'm just telling you this, that somebody has actually done it. So take heed what Chris is saying. Now, Chris, when it comes to, I know you guys don't do hip hop, but what about spoken word? That's changed over the years. Will there ever be a time when you will feature spoken word or do a feature on spoken word?
That is a great question. We've done a couple spoken word pieces, and reaction from our readers just wasn't great. So probably not. Now there's some things that have spoken word element plus a sung element, stuff like that. Just like there's some songs we do that may have a hip hop verse, but they'll have a sung verse that we'll cover. But sort of pure spoken word probably isn't we're probably not the right place for folks to submit.
All right. So we're coming up in the year 2022, and probably by this time that this airs, it will be 2022. What's on the horizon for Soul Tracks? I know I wanted to do this interview early with you because you guys have so much going on, but can you talk a little bit what the plan is for Soul Tracks in 2022?
Yeah. So I can tell you every year has been different than the year before because we're adjusting with the times. When we first were doing this, everybody was about selling CDs, right? And that's not happening now. So some of the things we're doing on the site, we poll our readers every year to say, how are you listening to music? Increasingly, people are streaming. So we've started embedding more streaming on the site. So every time that we cover a song, you can bet there's going to be a YouTube embedded on that page, and there's typically going to be a Spotify. So you can listen to it how you want. Maybe there's Bandcamp or something else for people. So it's to continue to adjust with how our readers are listening to music. Interestingly, it's kind of gone full circle because we're covering more and more vinyl now. Again,
I see.
We had a couple big stories we ran this month on vinyl releases because a lot of our audience, I think, still the last poll, it was about 25 to 30% of our readers still use vinyl. So, trying to incorporate some of that, making sure we're aware of the vinyl releases coming out, even if they're limited edition. Continuing to try and connect many of our readers grew up on classic soul. And our mission is, if you know only these classic soul artists, how do we introduce you to an artist who's in her 30s or even in her 20s, whose music we think you'll connect with? You won't be able to find them another way typically. So it's continuing to make that connection. If you liked Roberta Flack, are you going to like Acantha Lang? Something like that. And so that's a lot of what we hope to continue to do next year. And then we're always testing out new types of stories on Soul Tracks. And we'll just test out stuff and see how people react. We started something called The Backstory. And it's taking a famous song and then telling how that came to being. So, for instance, the Commodores did this for us. 3 of them sat down and gave us a story about how the song Night Shift came about. We had Full Force come and talk about Thanks for My Child, how that came about. So we're going to probably do more of these, the backstory, interesting stories about how a song that people have loved for 30 years, but don't know how it happened, how that came about.
No.
Another thing we're doing more of is stuff from the vaults, stuff that never got released, that we have access to. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's been really popular.
When I hear your name, the way it makes me feel inside. Every day takes my breath away. Visions of you come in my soul. When I hear your voice, I have no choice. Your every wish is my command. Don't you ever take your love away. I know that I can make it without you. I've got to know, are you with me? Then baby, let's ride. I've got to know, are you with me? Then baby, let's ride. Don't waste my time, my heart on the line. With every single day that I'll spend with you, with eyes open wide, I cannot hide. Oh no, these feelings that you give me deep inside. When I hear your voice, I have no choice. Your every wish is my command. Don't you ever take your love away. I know that I can make it without you. Got to know, I wanna know, are you with me? Are you? Then baby, let's ride. Yeah. I said I wanna know, are you with me? Then baby, let's ride. I wanna know, are you with me? Are you? Then baby, let's ride. I've got to know, are you with me? Then baby, let's ride.
Can't you see I'm done with it? Don't you know I'm all in it? Baby, can we just get with it?
Don't you wanna ride?
Can't you see I'm done with it? Don't you know I'm all in it? Baby, can we just get with it?
Don't you wanna ride?
Can't you see I'm done with it? Don't you know I'm all in it? Baby, can we just get with it?
Don't you wanna ride?
Can't you see I'm done with it? Don't you know I'm all in it? Baby, can we just get with it?
Don't you wanna ride? I wanna know, are you with me? Are you, yeah. I wanna ride, yeah.
Are you with me?
I wanna ride. You and me and you, just us two, yeah.
Are you with me?
I
We're talking to Chris Rizik, owner of Soul Tracks. I have two more questions for him before I let him go and do some real work instead of messing around with me today. First of all, Chris, I like for my people that come on the show to give their social media so people can follow them. Can you share Soul Tracks social media?
Oh my gosh, you're going to make me remember that now. It's SoulTracksCom, and so it's at SoulTracksCom. We're on Facebook, where we're the most active, Twitter, and Instagram. I would say probably Facebook is 10 times as popular with our readers. We've got about 60,000 Facebook fans, something like that. But also Twitter and Instagram. And we've got about, every month we get about 250 to 300,000 people come to visit to read. So lots of fans in about 110 countries right now.
One last question. One of the other things I love about Soul Tracks is you guys have embraced internet radio when a lot of publications are still wondering what to do with them. Advice for the internet radio stations who want to submit to Soul Tracks to get their radio station listed, what should they do?
Yes, that's a great question. So we do have a radio page. So internet stations, just contact us at info@soultracks.com and give us the name of your station, the links for it. If you would like artists to submit music to you, the email where they can submit it. And we've got a page that lists about 150 to 200 stations and has that information, because when artists come to us and say, we've got new music, how do we get it to radio stations? We point them to that page and say, you know, all these stations gave us an email address where you can send them your MP3 and get on. Another thing I would do is sign up at the top of the page on Soul Tracks. You can sign up with your email address, and then it'll ask you, are you in the media? And if you put yes, about every other week, we send out an MP3 of a new song to our radio station subscribers so they can add it to their playlist. That's a couple ways to get involved. We've been asked dozens and dozens of times to create a Soul Tracks radio station. And we've always said no, because there's so many good stations out there like yours. And we feel you're all partners of ours. So there's no reason, the world doesn't need us to create yet another station, because there's lots of great ones out there already.
I appreciate the compliments. And Chris, I gotta say thank you for jumping on, doing this interview. I appreciate you and all that you do. Anytime you need me to do anything, except for helping pick out the awards for the indie artists, because all these indie artists come to me because they know somehow I'm connected to you. And I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not voting. But I'm there for you whenever you need me.
Well, thanks so much, Phinesse, and thanks for having me on today. Keep doing the great work you're doing.
I will. I promise I will. Thank you so much. And we'll be in contact about that music conference, because I think that would be good for independent artists. We'll definitely do that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this edition of Soul on Soul with Phinesse. My boy Chris Rizik from Soul Tracks. Make sure you follow him on every social media platform. And make sure you follow us, Soul on Soul with Phinesse. We'll see you next Sunday at 10 p.m., same station, same time. Peace.
Chillax.
Yeah. Lay back, relax vibe, ice in the Hennessy. Had a crush on her in school and she still remember me. Cigar smoking, dope artwork hangs in the back room. Chill with me, baby, this goes right, you'll be back soon. Told a couple stories, shared a couple of memories. Everything about you was different, your vibe's heavenly. Old girl cool, she moves different and walk right. Thinking I'ma make it official after the next night. Just
let the music take your mind. Just relax and you'll be fine. Just wake a little wine and dine. Just let the music take your mind. Let the music take your mind. Just
This has been another Soul Media production.